When I was younger, Christmas break meant one thing: snowboarding trips with my brothers. We'd load up the car with boards, snacks, and whatever gear we could grab, and head east, chasing snow wherever we could find it. There was an unspoken rule between us, though. You never called the last run. Because the moment you said it, the day was already over. And somehow, it always seemed to curse the run that followed. My brother once got injured on a last run. Another time, he lost his keys somewhere on the mountain. It became a superstition. If you called it, you were announcing the end, and maybe even tempting the world to make something happen. So we just kept going. One more run, one more lift, one more memory. Those trips really weren't just about snowboarding. They were about the feeling of being free. Cold air on your face, long drives through falling snow, and the warmth waiting at the end of the day. This cabin is built around that feeling. A snow-covered retreat at the base of a Colorado slope. A place where winter doesn't end, and the warmth is never out of reach. I call it the No Last Runs cabin. I wanted to capture that moment of coming in from the cold. The shift from motion to stillness, from snow to fire, from silence outside to comfort inside. It's not a resort or a lodge. It's a bit smaller and a bit quieter. A space that feels like home, even if you're only here for the season. Every design starts with a story, and this one begins with the return from the mountain. Boots packed with snow, boards still dripping. The quiet exhaustion that only winter can bring. I wanted this cabin to capture that transition, from cold air and movement to warmth and stillness. The ground floor sits slightly lifted above the snow, perched just high enough to see the slope beyond. You park beneath a long porch, sheltered from the falling snow, and climb the stairs into the main level. The entry sits under a deep overhang, that moment of pause where you brush off the cold before stepping inside. From there, the entire building opens up. The glass walls stretch wide, blurring the line between outdoors and in. There are no fences or heavy walls here, just the solitude of the landscape providing its own privacy. To the left, we're going to have a main gathering room, a long space with tall glass looking towards the mountains. Even with the views, your eyes are drawn inward, to the large stone hearth that anchors everything. It's the heart of the cabin, the place for thawing gloves, telling stories, or just sitting in silence as snow falls outside. To the right, the dining room and small breakfast nook, a place for early mornings, slow coffee, and quiet conversations. The end wall there is going to be almost entirely glass, framing the drifting snow like a moving painting. And at the center, the two wings are tied together by this hearth, and a warm spine connecting the social spaces. Beyond that core, a simple stair leads up to the private level. 4 small bedrooms will be tucked under the roofline. Each one faces the trees, giving each guest their own view of the forest and the falling light. This design is about sequence, from arrival to entry, from fire to rest. It's not a grand lodge, it's a quiet rhythm. A place where you move through layers of warmth and space, but never quite reach an ending. That's what I wanted to capture here, the continuity of movement. The same feeling we had on the mountain, when there was never a last run, only the next one. With the sketches finished, I started turning the idea into form. And every project begins the same way, a floor plan with just walls and lines. But even at this stage, I'm thinking about how it would feel to walk through it. The route from the car beneath the porch, the climb up the stairs, and that first glimpse of the fire beyond the glass. Once the walls are in place, the structure starts to rise. I add the floors, and then the roof planes, and little subtle changes in ceilings and height that define different spaces. Doors and windows come next, wide openings framing the slope, smaller panes tucked under the overhangs. The glazing stretches long across the facade, connecting indoors to outdoors, and letting the solitude of the landscape provide its own privacy. Next comes one of my favorite parts, the site. I model a snow-covered slope in 3D Max, shaping it by hand until it feels right. Soft drifts, gentle ridges, the way wind sculpts snow over time. Once it feels a bit believable, I'll bring it back into Revit so the cabin truly sits within the mountain instead of on top of it. Getting this part right matters more than it looks. A building never floats, it belongs to something, and this one belongs to the snow. And now I just start refining. I add wall trims, roof edges, gutters, all those quiet details that give the architecture weight and precision. And here's the fireplace, a large stone mass rising through the center of the plan. It's both sculpture and structure, the heart of the design and the anchor for every gathering. Now that the form feels right, I'm going to begin furnishing it. Chairs and tables fill the main room. The outdoor seating area rests under the porch, and a small spa tucks against the deck. Because there's nothing better than stepping into hot water while snow falls all around you. These details make the building feel alive, a place ready to be lived in, ready for the next story. Finally, I'm going to move into Inkscape and begin surrounding the cabin with trees. Tall evergreens bending under the snow, scattered aspens near the entry, a few distant ridges to frame the view. The cabin starts to feel like it belongs to the mountain, quiet, solitary, and warm against the cold. Now that the form and entourage are complete, let's put some materials to this. The part where the cabin finally finds its voice. I wanted it to feel warm and cozy, but not rustic. Not a heavy log cabin we've all seen before, but something lighter, a modern interpretation of mountain warmth. The exterior is a balance of clean stucco walls and warm wood accents. Horizontal bands of timber break up the surfaces, and grounding the design and giving it rhythm. A large wooden deck extends from the main living space, wrapping the glass corners and softening the edges of the building, and that same wood carries into the soffits above. A continuous ribbon of warmth that ties the whole structure together. During the day, the stucco stays crisp against the snow. At night, the interior glow reflects off the wood and glass, turning the cabin into a quiet lantern on the slope. The long overhangs and low roof lines give it that grounded feel, a nod to prairie homes. But here they work to shed snow and protect the glass from glare. Inside, the palette shifts. Soft oak floors, warm pine ceilings, light plaster walls that catch the glow of the fire. The furniture stays simple, wood, fabric, metal, but it's arranged for connection. Chairs that face the hearth, a long dining table for gatherings, and window seats for quiet mornings spent watching snow drift past. The fireplace, it's built from rough cut stone, rising from floor to ceiling. Its texture changes as the light moves, cool gray in the morning, golden in the evening. Around it, daylight filters softly through the snow, bouncing off pale wood and plaster. It's a palette that doesn't compete with the mountain, it harmonizes with it. These materials do more than define the look, they define the feeling. You step in from the cold, and everything, the warmth of the wood, the color of the light, the quiet sound from the fire, reminds you that you're safe and home. This is the kind of modern mountain architecture I love. Not glass for the sake of views only, but glass for the sake of belonging. Let's take a walk through it. After a long day on the mountain, the light begins to fade. The runs are slowing, the lifts are closing, but here, there's no last run. When I was younger, we never wanted the day to end. The snow would be falling harder, the mountain emptying out, but we'd still be out there, carving the same runs long after the lifts had stopped. And when we finally did stop, We'd laugh and say we weren't calling it the last run. But the moment you said it, the day was already over. I think that's what I've always chased through architecture. That feeling of being fully present without worrying when it will end. Spaces like this cabin aren't about escaping life. They're about paying attention to it. The sound of snow against the glass, the smell of pine, the warmth that spreads from the fire through the floor. They remind us that endings and beginnings are just transitions, one run flowing into the next. Maybe that's what that cabin really is, a way to hold on to those moments from long ago, and to build new ones in their place. A reminder that warmth isn't just a temperature, it's a memory. And if you build it right, it never fades. Thanks for watching. Stay curious and design with intent.